I think burnout in society in general is something that we all go through. This doesn't necessarily just tie to video games, but burnout is something we have with most hobbies. It could be due to oversaturation. It could be like, say, you could be getting bored of it, or you could just be doing it too much, as it were. But I think video game burnout is something that's quite prevalent in today's society at the moment. And today's video is just something I want to go through. It's not going to be particularly anything flashy. It's going to be probably quite short, actually, because just a few things I want to talk about. So, burnout in general, what is it? It's just it's a phase that we go through, or several phases we go through in our lives with certain hobbies and outlets, that sort of thing. So it could be gaming, could be reading. We like reading here in our place. Graphic novels behind me. But video game burnout, I feel something that is more common, as opposed to, say, you get bored of reading, you get bored of exercise, or you get bored of watching movies, that sort of thing. Because I feel in today's society, video games, there's more pressure with gaming, with social media and YouTube here, as I'm talking to you through this camera, to turn your hobby into a job, basically. Turn it into a career, turn it into something productive. You can't just sit down, play a game, or read a book, or watch a movie, or watch something on Netflix without having to make that said hobby into something productive. And I feel that's a contributing factor to burnout in all hobbies, not just gaming. And sometimes we just need to turn off and just do our hobbies without any sort of monetary incentive or financial incentive, and just do it for the sake of pleasure, or just go off and do something else, that sort of thing. And just want to kind of talk about it in general, this video game burnout, that sort of thing. So let's get into it, shall we? So there are many contributing factors of video game burnout, but just to kind of give like the overall gist of it, like when you're going through said burnout, you look at your game library, you keep scrolling, and then you sometimes just like don't play at all, and you just pick up your mobile phone and just doom scroll for like 10 to 20 minutes, that sort of thing. Or you look at your shelf behind us here. This used to be a lot more filled than it used to be for the past year or so. I and my partner, we've cut down on a lot of things that we buy, not just with games, but with books, graphic novels, films too. And we're making it a more curated sort of experience with our hobbies. Um, yeah, so you look at your shelf and you think like, oh god, and you pick out the game that you're most familiar with and go back to that for the millionth time, which I'll get back to that sort of thing later. But why does this happen? Why does this happen? We can't play any new experiences. Well, I think first and foremost, to going back to the familiar, is that we as humans are comfortable with the familiar and the comfort of certain things. So there's nothing wrong, and this is the first thing I'll say to get out of burnout with games, is that there's nothing wrong going back to a familiar experience. I would actually encourage you to go back and play a game that you're very familiar with, that you love from top to bottom, and play it again and again and again. If you want to keep playing it over and over and over again in the space of a year, do it. I do it all the time. If I'm not feeling it with certain games, I will go back and replay them, like Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. More the first one, more than anything. I will go back and replay it once a year, just to kind of rekindle my love affair for the art form, as it were, in video games. And that's the main thing I will say. If you're feeling completely burnt out on games, well, if you're feeling completely burnt out, I would suggest going doing something else and kind of taking a break from it. But I'll get into that later. Go back to that game that made this hobby special in the first place. Like my partner, she goes back to Stardew Valley quite often, and she loves it. And that's the other thing too. Don't feel guilty going back to said games that you've played so many times that you'd care to admit. But don't feel guilty about it, because some people feel like they're quote unquote neglecting the backlog, as it were. But I would say the backlog in itself is something that's also a contributing factor to burnout, because when you start turning your hobby into an administration job, that's when you start to get very bored of it. So first thing is get rid of the backlog. The backlog doesn't exist. Just think like that. It doesn't exist. You've got games to play. Play it at your own accord. Don't see it as a job or a tick list to go down. Oh, I need to finish this game this month. I need to finish this game that month, or this smaller game this week. Just sit down and think what I'm in the mood for, and just go, you know what, I'm going to play that today. Doesn't matter that I've got other games on the go. That shouldn't matter. There shouldn't be this pressure of you having other games on the go, because it's a fun hobby at the end of the day. Because if you're turning it into a meaningless spreadsheet or job, you've kind of gone wrong somewhere. Not to sound mean or anything, but the backlog is something that makes you burn out on games, because you feel like, I mean, fair enough, if you bought like a game that's quite expensive day one, then yeah, I would suggest that you should probably play that sooner rather than later. But if you've got games you picked up cheaply over the years or over the weeks, probably, or the months, it's probably years. But just play them when you're ready, because they're not going anywhere. And to have a backlog, as it were, through spreadsheets and all that, it just turns the hobby into this laborious mess. And I used to be like that. Then I just thought, you know what, I'll play what I'm in the mood for. I'm not going to feel pressure in by trends, by social media trends, which again I'll get into later. I'm just going to play what I feel, and if I want to go back to a familiar experience that makes me feel passion for the hobby again, then I'm going to go back and play a game from 10 years ago, or in the case of Red Dead, 16 years ago at the time of recording this, because I love it, because Red Dead Redemption still feels like a new game to me, if I'm being totally honest. Whereas like newer games, I go, I'll get to them eventually. I'm not going to buy them day one. And that's the other thing, day one purchases, which I'll get into the social media stuff later. But gaming burnout, it's especially when it comes to like wanting to rekindle your love affair for games. Just go back to that classic that you played as a child or a teenager, whatever, or your early 20s if you're me, because I'm in my early 30s now, getting close to my mid 30s. With Red Dead, it was my late teens, and I remember that long summer in 2010. I still remember it vividly in my mind now. It was quite a warm summer, playing Red Dead in the late evening, going into Mexico. I remember that heat kind of like sort of like put me in the atmosphere of that game, of being in like a hot western desert, that sort of thing. And it sounds silly when I say it out loud, but in my mind, when I'm imagining it going back to that moment, it's perfect to me. But let's get into the other aspects of burnout with like social media and that sort of thing. Video game burnout can also be contributed to a lot of social media content creation, and again, you could say I'm being hypocritical because I'm doing content creation now of a specific subject within psychology of playing video games with burnout. But what I mean is this pressure with like new releases, because new releases I would say are more frequent than they were say 10-15 years ago. But with Instagram and TikTok especially, there's this sort of attitude of keeping up with the Joneses, as it were, of like having to play every new release, having to grab it day one, and financially it's not feasible to get every new release like every month, because games are very expensive these days. Again, that's another subject for another time. Don't get me started on game prices, but most normal people in normal jobs cannot afford to buy new game releases every month, like say 3 or 4, because that's like what, £200 to £400 in this country for new releases. Even with like standard editions, if you bought like 4 games, that's still like a good £200 to £300. Deluxe and special editions, of course, more expensive, but most people will rack it up on their credit cards, which again, don't recommend doing. But there is this sort of psychology that people have to keep keeping up with new releases over and over and over and over again, and content creation of with video games also, like keeping up with the Joneses of like uploading fresh Instagram posts through photos, video clips, and that sort of thing. I do this on Instagram, and it is hard to keep up, but I get sent games to showcase. It's not really I'm not trying to brag or anything. That's just the way it is. But it is hard to keep up even when I get sent these games, to kind of keep up with the trends, to keep up. It gets tiring, and sometimes I'm just like, you know what, I can't be bothered some days, and I go and play an older game and that sort of thing, or play my Switch, or at the moment it's the 3DS that I've started playing. But social media has become this sort of trap for people, that you have to keep playing new games, you have to keep up with the new trends, this sort of overconsumption thing, which, if here on YouTube, you've probably got your recommended set to where it keeps recommending you anti overconsumption videos, which when my partner watches YouTube on the telly, which my account is linked to, we get loads of those videos. Entertaining, yeah, but kind of disgusting when you watch like what these people do for content. But there's social media pressure, and even here on YouTube, where you get the constant, if you follow gaming news stuff, that sort of thing, you get constant bombardments about new releases or new variants of certain games, with like special editions, like with limited run. If say a game gets released digitally, you don't have to spend money, but not everyone has that sort of strong mind to go, no, bugger off, I'm not going to spend loads of money on a new release. Some people just feel like they have to keep up in order to keep in the conversation with say, I don't know, work colleagues, or even just with certain family members, just to keep in the conversation of the new releases. It gets very tiring, to say the least. And social media in general, I'm quite an avid user of social media with Instagram and TikTok. It can be a cesspit with this sort of like consumerism of games. And with any hobby, this includes books and stuff like that, book talk as well, that sort of thing can be incredibly horrible with how much people pick up. You just get burnt out with all the content. It's this sort of decision paralysis. We've got loads of decisions of games that we can play these days, but do we want to play all of them? And the answer is no, of course we don't, which can completely burn out our mind, that sort of thing. And certain influencers going like, oh, you need to buy this game now, we just feel like, oh, I've got to get it, and then you get the game and you feel a bit disappointed. What I would always say before even thinking about purchasing a game is just hold off, look at gameplay videos. What I generally do with older games, I look at gameplay videos without any commentary. I don't want anyone nattering in my ear about the game while they play it. And I know it's ironic me saying this as I'm talking to you through a camera here, nattering on about the game. I just want to see raw gameplay footage, see what the game looks like, how it works, someone who plays it competently, not like an expert by any means, but and I make a decision through that. But I just feel like the pressure through social media with games, with Burnout, it just really puts you down and that sort of thing. And I feel like try and have a bit more willpower through that, and not spend your money frivolously. And there's that sort of facet of social media that you feel like you have to create content with, like new games. If you go on Instagram, you would know, like, day of release of games, your timeline is bombarded of people who have just picked up this game and bought it, or they've been gifted it, that sort of thing. I get gifted games quite often through Instagram, but I'm not one of these people like, oh, you have to buy this game now, that sort of thing. I try and make an informed opinion about a game and inform my audience what that game's like. I don't pressure people to buy games that have come out recently. But yeah, that's the social media side of it, and let's get more into it. When it comes to burnout with any hobby, I think sometimes it's just good to just take a step back and just walk away and not do it for a bit. It could be a couple of days, it could be for a few weeks. I think with games, sometimes it's just good to taper it down a bit. It could be like you don't play as much some days, or you just don't play at all for like a few days to a week, and just focus on other aspects in your life, other hobbies. Like for me, I love reading graphic novels, love reading books. I think that's really good stimulate for the mind. Or in my case, sometimes I just like going out for a walk. Where we live in a pretty rural area. We've got plenty of nature around. Just get some fresh air for like an hour or two each day if you can. Obviously I exercise too. I love cycling. I've got the turbo trainer in the back garden now, so I can always get exercise no matter like the weather, basically, so I'm not trapped in four walls all the time. with the work that I do. But sometimes it's just good to step back, focus on other aspects of your life, other hobbies, as I said, and just let it simmer for a bit, your gaming hobby, to kind of avoid that complete burnout where you just go, oh, I don't want to do it at all anymore, that sort of thing. And when you come back to it, you're kind of refreshed. You have a new mindset for it, and you can focus on the games that you want to play, and just and the main thing is just play what you want. Don't play what you think you should play. That's the main advice I can give about avoiding gaming burnout. Is that play what you want, not play what everyone else is playing. And that goes back to the social media aspect: is play what you want, not what everyone else is playing. I keep repeating that because it's the best advice I can give you about this subject. Is just play what you want. And I say this to friends, to my partner, and she goes, I don't know what to play. I said, play what you want. What do you feel? What's your mood? And sometimes it's like, I don't want to play anything. And then you go, fair enough, go do something else, read a book or whatever. But just play what you want. And if you're in a mood for a first-person shooter, play a first-person shooter. If you're in a mood for an open-world RPG, play that. It's just, it sounds easier said than done, because it is easier said than done, because there is a lot to go into playing a game when you want to step in and play a game, because obviously you're having to use your mind. Because I always equate video games to books, because it's not a passive activity, because it involves someone involved, you, the player, the person, and because also games, like books, aren't bound by length either. But you do have to have the right frame of mind to play a game. And after a long day, sometimes you don't want to play a game that's long. And I would say maybe play a game that's quite short during the week. And at the weekends, have your longer experiences set aside for like a couple of hours or so. And yeah, that's all I've really got to say about gaming burnout, to be honest. It's a subject that's probably done more in depth and more intellectually discussed than me, to be honest. But I just feel that it's quite prolific in today's age, because people are just always online all the time. People are always looking at their social medias and looking for other people's opinions as opposed to forming their own. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take other people's opinions and kind of base it around a product, because absolutely you should. But at the end of the day, I think you should form your own opinion as well about a game and kind of go, I want to play it, but not everyone else is too jazzed about. There's quite a few games that I quite like, and a lot of other people do not like, if I'm being honest. But gaming burnout, it happens to the best of us. It's happened to me. One thing I almost forgot to discuss is personal experiences also do not help with gaming burnout. For me, 5 years ago, in 2021, going through bad experiences. My mum passed away 5 years ago, unfortunately, at the time of recording this, and I didn't want to play games at all. I used to sit there on Netflix and just have it on in the background, basically asleep most of the time. I didn't want to do anything, to be honest, because when you go through those sort of experiences, to be honest, you don't want to do anything. I didn't want to exercise, didn't want to leave the house, I didn't want to play video games, really. I would play certain video games that were, like, as I said, familiar to me, but new games or different experiences, I couldn't be bothered. I didn't want to know, to be honest, and I was in a dark place, and those sort of experiences really tank your enthusiasm, to say the least, for your hobbies. It took me a while to get out of that sort of struggle, but when I did, it was great, and it helped me with my dark moments, video games, because I feel they do help when you're in those really, really dire moments. But yeah, just try and go for new experiences, or as I said, if you're really feeling it, just walk away. It doesn't matter if you're not playing games and everyone else is. It's all about your own mental health at the end of the day. And if you feel that games aren't benefiting you at that time, it's always good just to walk away and just clear the cobwebs out your hair, like go, Alfred Walker said, and get some exercise. some time to yourself, and the lost art of doing nothing is the other thing I feel is lost these days. Just sitting there, looking out the window, as I was looking to my right there, and just taking the environment of like, go sit on a bench in a park somewhere and just sit there, or just go for a walk, taking the environment. Don't go in any shops if you're going out for a walk. That's the main takeaway. And yeah, that's just kind of my quick brief video about game Burnout. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.